Shout out to Bees from the Discord server for showing me this one. Link to the post is in the description. In Fallout New Vegas, if you have the Wild Wasteland trait, you can find this group of aliens to the north of the city. While most players go in blasting, if you remain hidden and take out just the alien captain, the other two aliens will remain non-hostile to the player. It's always nice to have some friends in the Mojave, especially when they're from out of this world. In Fallout 4, there are various clothing options, armor sets, and headgear that we can find and wear. One of the coolest things that we can find is the assaultron helmets. Seemingly forged out of the hollow head of an actual assaultron, these helmets provide good cover and look nice doing so. These helmets were introduced in the Automatron DLC, and they can usually be found on Rust Devils, which is a robot-obsessed raider gang that the DLC brought with it as well. Hands down, the most unique feature of these helmets is the fact that they change based on what is going on with the player. If you draw your weapon, as you would in combat, the face closes on the assaultron helmet, providing you with a little more protection during battle. When you holster your weapon, the front opens, allowing the wearer to see and speak better. This is a tremendous small detail, and I would love to see more features like this with armor in the future. In Fallout 3, if you travel to Fordham Flash Memorial Field, you can find a raider that seems to be carrying on the Great American Pastime. If you remain undetected, you will see this raider running the bases. While the rest of their group is out on patrol, this baseball enthusiast has taken it to the next level and will continue this animation until they see you or they are killed. I like to think that all the Kims are finally starting to get to the raiders' heads when I see something like this. In Fallout New Vegas, at the Ultralux Casino, we can get the Beyond the Beef quest. During this quest, we will learn that the White Glove Society has kidnapped Ted Gunderson, a wealthy Brahmin baron's son. Through the course of events, we will learn that the White Gloves used to be cannibals. Though they claim not to partake in this dark act anymore, we find out that's not the case with a bit of speechcraft or by having the cannibal perk ourselves, which leads to why we're talking about them in the first place. During a recent stream, many audience members claimed they did not know that you can replace Ted Gunderson with one of your human companions, like Boone, which is what I like to call making Boone burgers.
Ted Gunderson is his name. It would be simplest if we could convince him this was all an unfortunate misunderstanding. But if he won't listen, we can't very well let him go. He'll have to be slaughtered and served. Then we wouldn't need the replacement. But you would need to deal with his father, Heck. Perhaps if you could smear some of Ted's blood around his father's hotel room, you could frame him. Perhaps a little rugged, a little gamey, but he's in good shape and looks healthy. Very well. If you're able to convince young Mr. Gunderson to return to his father, replace him in the freezer with your friend and we'll have a deal.
Once you confess to Mortimer that you are a cannibal, all you have to do is lock Boone in the freezer and return Ted to his father. After the reunion, we can report back to Mortimer, who will invite you to dinner, where he informs the rest of the society about what he just served. In Fallout Tactics, you can come across a special encounter that will show a group of Brahmin huddled around a table. If we take a minute to see what they are saying, their dialogue would suggest they are involved in a rigorous poker game. While this is not the first time Brahmin have shown the ability to talk, this is undoubtedly the most we have ever seen them say. As the warrior and the squad get close to the group, they will break from the game and run off, yelling that the feds are here. If we take this opportunity to search the table that they were using, we can find quite a few pull tabs on it, the Fallout Tactics currency. This whole encounter is an excellent reference to the poker game painting by Cash Coolidge, and the series that followed that showcased dogs playing poker. This is a tremendous Fallout-inspired take on the timeless works of Coolidge. In the Fallout series, there's a lot of things to do. The game worlds are filled with side quests and interesting characters that can easily take hundreds of hours of your time. One of the often overlooked activities that players can do in most Fallout games is a pastime that goes back generations. I am of course talking about cow tipping, or Brahmin tipping for the post-war folks. In the original Fallout, this act was done by using beer on the Brahmin, getting them drunk, causing them to tip over. A lot of players miss this because very few would think to use beer on a Brahmin. In Fallout 2, this was simplified with the introduction of the push command. Usually this action would move human NPCs out of the player's way. Still, when used on a Brahmin, it tips them over, keeping the tradition alive. In Fallout Tactics, your squad can come across a special encounter that hosts a large area of fenced-in Brahmin. It even includes a sign that says, "Do not tip the Brahmin." If the warrior or any other squad members interact with the Brahmin, it will cause them to tip over. Plenty of cows for the tipping here. As the Fallout series entered the first-person era with Bethesda, this tradition came with it. If you are crouched next to a Brahmin in Fallout 3, you can tip them over with a great push animation, essentially making the cows go ragdoll. which can be great fun. This carries over to New Vegas as well, where the same tactics can be used on the Brahmin of the Mojave. This only works on normal Brahmin, so you won't be pushing any pack Brahmin down during caravan runs. This feature was mysteriously left out of Fallout 4, though there are mods that claim to add the cow tipping tradition into the game. Regardless, this has to be the most underrated pastime in the Fallout series. Every fan of the Fallout series is familiar with the Nuka-Cola bottles found all around the wasteland. Oftentimes, they are filled with refreshing Nuka-Cola, the biggest soft drink in the world pre-war in the Fallout universe. I've been asked many times if Nuka-Cola has a canned variant, and the answer is yes, we just don't get to interact with it the same way we get to with the bottles. We know these cans exist because we can see them as debris in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4. Whether or not these cans could last the passage of time is up for debate, but something must be up with them as we never find a drinkable canned Nuka-Cola. As people who enjoy the Fallout games, many of you have established which characters or environments you like the most. Right now, I want to talk about the NPC I hate the most out of the whole series. I'm curious about what NPCs you can't stand as well, so tell me in the comments. In the original Fallout, you can travel to the Boneyard, home to the Blades. Inside the Blades safe house, you can meet Christine. Christine is a relatively forgettable character, but something about her always grinds my gears, and it involves a bit of unique dialogue you get from asking her if there's anything else you should know. This will prompt Christine to say a string of letters, which I thought could be a code of some sort when I played Fallout as a youngin', until I started reading it. Christine will say C, D, E, D, B, D, ducks, and we can reply with M, R, not ducks. Christine will then follow with OSMR, C, D, E, D, B, D, wings. And we can reply with YIB, MR, ducks. Reading this out loud starts to show the meaning of what is going on here, a phonetic joke. Christine is saying, see the itty bitty ducks, and we are replying with, them are not ducks. Christine then replies with, oh yes, them are, see the itty bitty wings. And then we say, why I'll be, them are ducks. She is referring to the bottles of Nuka-Cola laying on the floor next to Duggan and how the sprite slightly resembles a duck. I hate this NPC because she makes me say this line of nonsense in my head every time I speak to her. The vocabulary involved, mixed with the cutesy nature of the joke itself, brings me to a rage. Of course, it's not that bad, but I still take Christine out at every opportunity I get. In the classic Fallout games, you will come across NPCs that have talking heads. This term refers to NPCs you interact with that have a voice dialogue and a first-person conversation box. What some fans may not know is that these heads are made from clay, after which they are edited through various programs and saved in sync with the voice lines of each character. This practical effect is another great way the Fallout devs visually made the game stand out and add certain vibes to the classic NPCs that haven't been matched since. I would love to get my hands on one of these old sculptures for my Fallout collection. What a fantastic piece. One of the first NPCs you will meet in Fallout 4 is the lovable Mr. Handy, Codsworth. This helpful robot has quite the reputation for being able to say the players' names. It's not something we've seen in Bethesda games before, at least to my knowledge. While of course, many people use this feature to test the limits, see what silly or obscene phrases they can get Codsworth to say.
Mr. Titties, Sean has been changed. Mr. Titties, I do so enjoy serving this family. Mr. Fucker, if I may, Sean requires your personal attention. Mr. Assface, Mr. Boobies.
Still, it was impressive to see just how many names are recorded for this feature with Codsworth, but in this video, we are looking past the typical names and jokes implemented to the many pop culture references that we can get Codsworth to say. Here are a few that stand out to me.
Mr. Bort, Mr. Freeman, Miss Katniss, Mr. McFly, Mr. Snake, Mr. Solo, Mr. Orgasmo, Mr. Pliskin, Mr. Riddick, Mr. Neo, Mr. Morpheus, Mr. Springsteen, Mr. Humongous, Mr. Bond, Mr. Fry.
If you have played Fallout New Vegas, there's no doubt that you have come across the Fiends, a fierce raider group with a reputation that makes even the most weathered wasteland explorers think twice before approaching them. Initially, the courier was to have a lot more interaction with the group than we see in the final game. I want to look at the three most significant examples of this: Driver Neffy, Cook, and Violet. Each character has some now cut dialogue that gives a bit more insight into the lore of the trio as well as the faction as a whole. With the help of mods, we can actually see these removed conversations for ourselves, and of course, the mods I use for this will be listed in the video's description below. First, let's look at Driver Neffy. and we can ask him all sorts of questions and really get a feel for the type of guy that he is.
Who the fuck are you and why are you bothering me? Name's Neffy, friend. Driver Neffy. Pleasure to meet you. Now you fucking dolt. Why the hell would it be a pleasure? Fucking ain't right it is. This baby's my life, my love, my strong right arm. Killed a lot of fuckers with this hunk of iron, yes sir. Huh? Oh, lots. More than any other fiend. Hundreds, maybe. Wham, bam. Oh, God, my brains. You hit me in my brains. Easy as that. I could. I'm not terribly inclined to, though. If you go talk to them, they might kill you and rob me of the fun.
I've always been a fan of Neffy's cut content, which is why I use my favorite clip from him as the outro to most of these shorts.
Get fucked.
On to perhaps the most egregious fiend of the bunch, Cook, the group's chef, and we can discover just how much he cares for his Brahmin queenie and his true feelings for the NCR.
Something on your mind? NCR, bunch of soft little bitches. They got no stomach for life in the wasteland. Got some choice strains, though, I'll give them that. Yeah, I'll give them that, all right. Who am I? I'm the scariest motherfucker you ever gonna meet. I'm Cook, bitch. Better not forget it. If I had to guess, it's because I cook shit for the rest of the gang. I'm a good cook. Maybe I'll make you dinner sometime. That's right. Ramen, mole rats, lizards, the occasional traveler lost in the wrong part of town. Not Queenie, though. I'd never cook my Queenie. That's Queenie. She's the prettiest Brahmin in the wastelands. Aren't you, Queenie? Yes, you are. Who's a good girl? Yes, you are. Yes, that's right. If I had to guess, it's because I cook shit for the rest of the gang. I'm a good cook. Maybe I'll make you dinner sometime. Of course I do. You want to meet him, eh? Even money whether Violet's dogs rips you apart or Neffy K's in your skull with that iron of his. Yeah, whatever.
Finally, we reach Violet and her dogs. Boy, does she love those dogs.
What you want, freak show? Who wants to know? You here for my dogs? Can't have my dogs? Here for meat? You can't have my meat. Meat's for dogs. I'm Violet. Dogs are mine. Meat is mine. Don't fuck with fiends. Driver Nephi will brain your skull and cook. You don't even know what he'll do. Good shit. Psycho, top quality. You want? Might know a guy who knows a guy. No. More for me. Dogs? Good dogs. My dogs. Fiend dogs. Tear you up. Arf, arf, arf! Arf, arf! Sell my dogs? What part don't you get? Mine! Lucky don't you lie for that. Piss off!
Fallout New Vegas has a haven of cut content that would have made the game even better. If you want to hear more about all that was cut from the game, check out one of my favorite channels, Triangle City. He covers everything he can find that was cut from Fallout New Vegas, and the videos on the channel are top tier. He doesn't know I'm shouting him out or anything, I just love his stuff. Cut content like these Fiend dialogues makes you wonder what all they had in store for New Vegas, and how it would have made an already great game that much better. In Fallout 3, if you're exploring Foggy Bottom Station, you can find a pretty useless unique item called Danielle's book. This faded old world text has no use and shows up as junk in the Pip-Boy. Doing some research, I found that some have speculated that this book belonged to Danielle Fay, who's listed in the impound computer at the Germantown Police Headquarters. The terminal reads as follows. Department Recovery. Vehicle ID 8746352034578 C237. Offenses: abandoned car. Other: not yet determined. Notes: car found along highway with burnt out engine. It appears to have been stolen and taken on a joyride, and matches descriptions of cars in a variety of recent out-of-state traffic offenses. When recovered, car's contents included 2 pairs of pliers, 1 Canadian flag, assorted theatrical costumes, 4 bottles of tequila, empty, 1 pool cue, broken, and 4 garden gnomes, strapped to front bumper. Owner reported car stolen 4 days prior, but her story has many inconsistencies. Bring Miss Faye in for further questioning. Miss Danielle Faye. I can't really find any connection between the Danielle Faye mentioned in this terminal and the Danielle who owned this book. Items in her stolen car were listed. If Bethesda wanted to make that connection, they could have recorded the book in the terminal entry. Perhaps people just assume this is the case because this is the only 2 times we see the name Danielle in Fallout 3. My personal take is that more than likely this book is left over from a cut quest. I can't find any information saying that this is the case. Still, I also can't find any data supporting the wiki's connection between the book and the terminal. As far as I can tell, this is just a unique junk item in the final game. So for those of you that like to have rare items lying around, make sure to stop by Foggy Bottom Station. In Fallout 4, the most notable settlement that can be found is Diamond City. Built out of the remains of Fenway Park, this site is called the Great Green Jewel of the Commonwealth for a reason. Still, today I want to talk about some of the more minor details that some players may have missed. First, I want to talk about the big security gate that we meet as soon as we show up. This is where we can find Piper going ham because she's been locked out of the city. Once we finish this bit of the quest, the entrance will remain open for the game's duration. Most people don't know that you can use a jetpack to get to the crane that controls the gate and lower it again. Just a little fun fact that most people tell me they don't know. I have already covered the hidden diner that sits above the stadium, so going inside we can find a terminal in the Boston Bugle building that will inform us that on the day the bombs dropped, October 23rd, 2077, Boston was to play Game 7 of the World Series, stating, "Tomorrow, my friends, the unthinkable will finally come to pass, and life in Boston will never be the same again." This is a reference to the Curse of the Bambino, a real-life superstition in the MLB that people believe kept the Boston Red Sox from winning a World Series game since the year 1918. People thought that the sale of Babe Ruth to the Yankees cursed the team to never win the championship again. The Red Sox would finally break the curse in 2004 with a victory over the St. Louis Cardinals, lifting Boston's spirits and seemingly the curse altogether as the team would win 3 times after this game. This is reflected in Diamond City, where we can see the World Series win flags up to 1918. I was curious about why the 2004 flag was left out, so I reached out to Nate Perkapile and Joel Burgess about this. Nate created most, if not all, of Diamond City, and Joel was the studio lead at Bethesda during Fallout 4. They had this to say. "Yeah, I forgot I even did that, but I think you're right, that I changed it because there's a timeline split in 76, so I don't want the history to play out the same way. Sorry, no, I said that wrong. I just meant a timeline split in Fallout, how it's not the same timeline as the normal world." Yeah, what he said. The real world timeline and the Fallout timeline diverge, I think in the late 40s, although I'm pretty sure nobody has ever publicly given a specific date. This is why some things, like the invention of transistors, did not happen in Fallout's history. No problem, I definitely recall an internal conversation about what the championship canon should be in the timeline of Fallout 4. There were some big Boston feelings involved. So it was a design choice to keep the Curse of the Bambino alive, but one other design choice is a bit more positive. The red chair seen in the stands. This is also inspired by a real-life moment when Ted Williams hit the ball for an astounding 502 feet, a record for Fenway Park. This isn't the only nod to real life that we can see in the park either, as the Nuka-Cola billboard is pretty much in the same spot as a Coca-Cola advertisement at Fenway Park. Small details like these really tie places together in games like Fallout. Bethesda has always added these kinds of things expertly in their games, and I always look forward to what I'm going to find next. While playing Fallout New Vegas, you may hear some crazy sounds that you can't quite place. These electronic, static-filled noises sometimes sound like a distorted scream. They often confused me through my playthroughs, but recently I've discovered the source of these noises. The first one is easy to identify, a glitchy-sounding slide guitar track. We can track this down to the Hawaiian hula girl found in many places throughout the wasteland. It's a shame we can't collect these, as it'd be fun to hoard all the hula girls in the game. The second noise that escaped me for quite some time actually comes from a pretty obvious source. The distorted scream, or roar, is generated by the dino toys that litter the Mojave. For years I thought my game was haunted when I would hear this dino noise until I finally figured out where it was coming from. Good to know it wasn't just some spooky glitch. In Fallout New Vegas, you can find many slabs of meat. Brahmin steak, dog meat, and even human flesh are just some of the different kinds you may encounter when out in the Mojave. One stands out quite a bit due to rarity, and that is the doggy treat item that can only be found in 2 known places in Fallout New Vegas. The first place we are looking at is pretty close to where the courier starts in Goodsprings, right outside the Yangtze Memorial in an unmarked abandoned shack. This rundown old shack can actually act as a player home. It's safe to throw your items on the ground or store them in any container you can find inside. More relevant to this video, we can find one of the doggy treats here on the floor. The other doggy treat is a bit further away, at Big Mountain. We can find it in the X-13 research facility. This is where we would get the Stealth Suit Mark II armor. There are a lot of dog-heavy themes here, including a Night Stalker haven. This is why it makes perfect sense that we find a doggy treat in one of the dog bowls here. This makes the item a bit rarer, in my opinion, as the first one we can find is laying in a shack that most players would likely never see, and the only other doggy treat in the game is guarded by a group of Night Stalkers in the basement of a Big Mountain facility. This has to be one of the rarest items in Fallout New Vegas. Too bad you can't give them to Rex or any other dogs, but they will act as a good conversation piece. In Fallout 2, if you travel to New Reno and make your way over to New Reno Arms, you can lockpick the back door to get into Eldridge's room. His dogs want none of that action, so quickly make your way to the basement entrance behind the metal shelves. Down in the basement, we find Algernon. This is his personal hell. We aren't looking into all that in this video. Instead, we're making our way down to the bottom right corner of the map. Here, expertly hidden among unsearchable clutter, is a pot. Inside the pot, we can find an actual Easter egg. The in-game description reads, "This is a hard-boiled chicken egg painted with colored dyes." This is just a silly, well-hidden item that has no use in the final game other than to act as a trophy in your inventory. Fallout 2 developer Chris Avalon stated that the egg was planned to hatch a chicken that would serve as a companion, but this idea was clearly not implemented. I must say, I do wish we could see this in game. The most obvious reason is that it would be pretty funny to see an actual chicken travel the waste with the chosen one. Though I am curious, did Avalon mean that a legit chicken would spawn from the egg, or would it possibly be another Deathclaw companion, as we can find one in Modoc, owned by Rose, that's referred to as a chicken by the townsfolk. This is actually referenced in Fallout New Vegas, where we can meet Rose's grandniece, Joss Wilkins, who will task the courier with finding a Deathclaw egg for her great-aunt Rose's original Deathclaw omelet recipe.
My great-aunt Rose ran a bed and breakfast back in California, in a town called Modoc. She's the one who created the recipe in the first place. I don't know how she managed to get a hold of a female Deathclaw, but she kept it in a shed. Aunt Rose had a steady supply of eggs for her omelets. At least, she did until some stranger came along and killed the Deathclaw, shot it right in the eye.
I like to think Avalon meant a real chicken because I like that visual. Either way, it would have been one more thing that made Fallout 2 such a fantastic experience. The Fallout 2 guidebook has been one of my favorite books since I was a kid. I would regularly check it out from my local library to the point where I ended up just keeping it. I would eventually buy my own, and it remains in near mint condition today. This book actually makes an appearance in Fallout 2. Once you've destroyed the Enclave's oil rig, if you go to New Reno and speak with Father Tully, he will gift this softcover book to you. The in-game description reads, "Well, this would have been good to have at the beginning of the goddamn game. I have always loved this type of thing in video games. Fourth wall breaks can be super fun and humorous when done correctly, and I think Fallout 2 nails it here." A member of my Discord pointed out an Easter egg that YouTuber Bears798 had found, linked to their videos in the description. At the Galaxy News Radio Plaza in Fallout 3, you can find this sculpture of a rocket ship orbiting the globe. This is a reference to Interplay, the creators of the Fallout series, and their opening scene that shows the same logo. This is made more apparent and matches more closely in the Capital Wasteland Creation Club add-on for Fallout 4, which features the same Easter egg but modified to have one ring around it, like the original Interplay logo. This is a terrific small shout out to the original creators of the series that Bethesda decided to pay homage to in a beautiful way. In the game files for the Fallout 4 DLC Automatron, there exists a consumable brain that seems to have been cut from the final game. On the PC with console commands, we can place it in the inventory. Not much is known about this brain, but we can find it in one of the test cells for Fallout 4. Much past that, it's a real mystery on what the purpose of this item would be. Eating the brain grants +2 to intelligence and a -1 to endurance, but we cannot see an icon for the brain in the Pip-Boy or when inspecting it. But if we drop it on the ground, it will give us a great look. My best guess and top theory for why this brain was planned to be in the DLC is perhaps it would have been a component we needed to make robots like the Robo-Brain. Bethesda likely made it consumable to play into the Fallout vibe and offer a fun new food item to collect. Whatever the case may be, Bethesda ultimately decided to cut this brain from the final game, leaving us to wonder what exactly it was doing there in the first place. A member of my Discord server asked me to cover the cookies that appear in the Fallout series. Well, they only appear in 2 games, and they're one of the rarest items in the entire Fallout universe due to the scarcity, value, and how missable they are overall. In the Fallout world, these cookies have really stayed the test of time. The pre-war baked treats are still edible, and they will boost the player's action points by 1 for 15 minutes. In Fallout 2, 3 chocolate chip cookies can be found. The easiest to get is from Pharrell in Modoc. Suppose the Chosen One's intelligence is lower than 4. In that case, Pharrell will reward them with a cookie after they clear his garden of rodents. Another cookie can be found here, but it will cost $1,000. Rose gives the cookies out with a glass of water, which is why the price is so high. The hardest one to obtain lies at the Sierra Army Depot. You have to complete quests in New Reno for the location to even show up on your map, and after that, you still have to find a way into the damn place. Once inside, down on level 2 of the facility, we can find a cookie in the break room, along with some other snacks and drinks. There was going to be a 4th location to find a cookie in Fallout 2, at the EPA map, down in the lower levels of the structure. This location and its content were cut from the final game, but they have been restored in Kill-App's restoration project. Fallout Tactics is the only other game in the series to host this item. After reaching Bunker Gamma, the warrior and their squad will go through St. Louis and eventually get a mission for the town of Jefferson. In Jefferson, we meet Thelma, a super mutant commander. After a confrontation, we can loot a chocolate chip cookie from her corpse. It's hard to pinpoint how cookies have avoided radiation and have remained edible after all these years, but they are for sure a fun thing to hunt and a great addition to your inventory. In the classic Fallout games, you can find special messages on the Pip-Boy on the in-game dates that host holidays. Days like Valentine's Day, April Fool's, Halloween, and Christmas will prompt a celebratory greeting on the Pip-Boy 2000's main screen. Similarly, in Fallout 4, we can see that Diamond City will decorate the market based on Halloween and Christmas, adding new lights and Christmas trees for the most wonderful time of the year, and cardboard cutouts of cats and pumpkins with Happy Halloween banners for the most spookiest time of the year. I like these small details being in the Fallout world. The classic Fallout Pip-Boy messages make sense, as the computer is likely programmed to these dates pre-war. Still, it's nice to have that festive feel for these days with the Diamond City decorations, a terrific little Easter egg that really adds personality to the settlement. Fallout New Vegas follows the events of the Mojave after the courier is shot and left for dead in Goodsprings. The bulk of the game is about deciding the fate of the Mojave by taking one of 4 paths. The courier can side with major factions during the upcoming battle at Hoover Dam, such as the NCR and the Legion, or they can fulfill the dreams of Mr. House by securing New Vegas under his guise. The possibility of taking matters into their own hands even exists through Yes Man. Some New Vegas players may not know that there is a hidden ending buried under a few requirements that sees the courier and Father Elijah take the Mojave. Before starting the Dead Money DLC, this can happen if the courier is vilified by the NCR and has recruited Veronica as a companion. Of course, making sure to ask her all about Father Elijah.
I would say he was my tutor, but that doesn't cover it. After my parents passed, he looked after me. The whole Brotherhood brought me up, really, but he made sure of it. I never had a grandfather, not that I knew anyway, but Elijah was in some ways what I'd imagine a grandfather to be.
Now, you would have to take on the task of going through the Dead Money DLC. It doesn't matter who lives or dies by the end. Once you're at the Sierra Madre Vault, talk to Elijah about Veronica.
Veronica? She survived Helios? She would. Resourceful.
Elijah will then express his desire for the Mojave, and since we're vilified by the NCR, we can agree with him. Now, we get the most hidden ending slide in New Vegas.
Perhaps I was too quick to put a collar on a potential ally. Very well. I'll come down and show you what the Sierra Madre has in store.
In the years that followed, the legend of the Sierra Madre faded, and there were no new visitors to the city. Years later, when a mysterious blood-red cloud began to roll across the Mojave, then west toward the Republic, no one knew where it had come from. Only that it brought death in its wake. Attempts to find the source of the toxic cloud failed. The Mojave was cut off. Through the cloud, lights were seen from Helios 1. There were stories of ghosts immune to gunfire who struck down anyone they saw with rays of light. The last chapter of the Mojave came when a modified Repcon rocket struck Hoover Dam, releasing a blood-red cloud, killing all stationed there. All attempts to penetrate the cloud and retake the dam failed, and both the NCR and Legion finally turned away from it, citing the place as cursed. Only 2 remained alive in the depths of the cloud at the Sierra Madre, waiting for their new world to begin again.
In Fallout New Vegas, just west of Old Lady Gibson's scrapyard, we can find an unmarked location called Gibson's Shack. Typically, players would visit this shack during Veronica's quest due to the terminal that's inside. We are looking at a different item found in this shack today. As pinned to the wall with a machete is a severed finger, the only finger we can find in Fallout New Vegas to be precise. In Fallout 3, we could find these on evil characters with the Lawbringer perk, turning them into Sonora Crews at Regulator HQ for a few caps and a karma boost. New Vegas does not have this system, so this is the only place we can find this finger. I like to look at it as Obsidian hinting that an evil character was killed here. Still, more than likely it was whoever the skeleton belonged to on the bed, probably caught off guard by raiders who ransacked the place. Or maybe, just maybe, there's a little more to Old Lady Gibson than meets the eye. Still, this finger is one more unique item that you can add to your collection in Fallout New Vegas. In Fallout 3, Megaton will likely be the first settlement you come across after leaving Vault 101, a quaint, walled-in town made from old airplane scrap built around an active atom bomb. One of the critical stops while looking for your dad out in the Capital Wasteland is speaking to Colin Moriarty. He runs the aptly named Moriarty Saloon. Inside the saloon, we can meet one of the most likable characters in Fallout 3, Gob, a timid, frequently abused ghoul who works the bar and only wants to listen to Galaxy News Radio while he does it. If the Lone Wanderer somehow kills Moriarty, an interesting thing will happen with the saloon itself. Gob will take over the bar and even change the sign after a while to represent that he is calling the shots now. Nothing else really changes after this besides Nova giving up on the world's oldest profession to run the hotel. However, it is still a nice touch to showcase the player's decisions throughout the game. In Fallout 3, we can come across the Temple of the Union, a camp of escaped slaves that want to create a safe haven at the Lincoln Memorial. They will task the Lone Wanderer with helping them secure and restore the site, which includes putting the head back on the statue of Lincoln himself. Though, in Fallout New Vegas, we can find Lady Jane when gathering bounties for the Garretts. Jane will point us to the Brockflower Cave to recover her pack Brahmin. Once inside the cave, we can see a pretty surprising item tied to the Brahmin, Lincoln's head. There's no information at all on why this appears in New Vegas this way. Fallout New Vegas takes place 4 years after Fallout 3, so it's hard to think that this is the same head from the Capital Wasteland, primarily since the Temple of Union used it to repair the memorial. What do you think the reason for this Lincoln cameo is? Let me know in the comments below. In Fallout New Vegas, if you find yourself inside the Lucky 38 suite, you can grab one of the rarest drinks in the whole game. For those of us who leave the room the way it is and don't think twice about the various items strewn about, we likely miss this one-of-a-kind consumable altogether. Nestled next to a ham radio and its much more common and visibly identical counterpart, a bottle of scotch, we can find this Jake juice, the only item of its kind in Fallout New Vegas. According to the wiki, it's named this way to reflect a Jamaican ginger extract known as Jake. This medicine was used in Prohibition times and often held 80% of its weight as ethanol. So, in reality, this Jake juice would knock your dick in the dirt faster than most things you could find in New Vegas. In game though, it's identical to scotch. I think it's best to leave it just where it is due to its rarity, an excellent conversation piece for Cass. In Fallout New Vegas, the big dust-up between the NCR and the Legion happens at Hoover Dam. If you don't align with Caesar, one of your final tasks will be to confront Legate Lanius at his camp. You can get some unique dialogue here if you change into Legion armor and disguise yourself as a member of the faction. Not only will the Legion not attack you, but Lanius will have this to say.
And who is this before me in the colors of the Legion? An envoy, dressed as an insult to all that carry out Kaisar's will.
I love when games do this. Changing the encounter based on small things like what you are wearing is such a great touch. Many people familiar with Fallout 2 know the beauty of a low intelligence run. Stumbling around the wasteland with nary a thought in your head can be quite an enjoyable experience, and it changes the game in many ways. This conversation with Tor, found in Klamath, is my favorite, so I wanted to showcase it in a video. If the Chosen One has an intelligence stat below 4, they will be able to communicate with Tor on his level, opening up complete sentences for both you and the humble tribal. I have always liked small details like this in the Fallout series, and many more can be found by playing the game this way, one of the many things that makes Fallout 2 stand out beautifully. In Fallout New Vegas, we can come across all kinds of bugs in our travels. Obsidian added a small detail that I really enjoy, and I have noticed that some people on my live streams do not seem to know about it. When we come across the smallest variant of the giant mantis nymph in New Vegas, because of their size, we can simply walk over them, thus stepping on them and killing the bug instantly. We can find a gang of these creepy crawlies inside the Nevada Highway Patrol building, a great place to brush up on the Bug Stomper challenge. Of course, we wouldn't get away with this with the larger variety of mantis that inhabits the Mojave and Zion. A group large enough could take over places like Camp McCurran or the Strip. The mantis might be the most varied bug in the Fallout series, coming in so many different shapes and sizes. So, if you really don't like my videos, you can go out and stomp on small mantids in the Mojave to take out your frustrations. In the Far Harbor DLC for Fallout 4, we come across an island filled with thick and often toxic fog. The locals don't like traveling on the island due to everything you can run into while lost in the dragon clouds that cover this coastal wasteland. This is why the citizens of Far Harbor will tell you to look to resident badass, Old Longfellow, to help guide you through the hellscape to find Acadia. There is some unique dialogue with Old Longfellow that many players don't see due to how the quests are laid out in Far Harbor. Suppose we find and travel to Acadia before meeting the old boy. If that's the case, he will be very impressed and offer this bit of dialogue.
I heard you made it to Acadia by yourself. That takes some stone.
Is it rare for someone to travel to Acadia alone?
You're damn right it is. There's all manner of nastiness in the fog. Most folks are content to cower behind the hull in Far Harbor, but not you.
The trip wasn't that bad.
Is that so? You've got more spine than most of the folks living here. Maybe we can help each other out. I'm tired of waiting around for something interesting to happen. Ain't getting any younger, that's for damn sure. Thing is, I was born and raised here. I know this island front to back. I know what's in the fog and how to deal with it. Let me run with you. I could help you find your way around. Teach you what I know. Best of all, you won't have to drink alone.
Sounds like a good offer. I accept.
All right, then.
A little over a year ago, obviously going by the time of this recording, I was gifted a ring in Fallout 76 by a fan. I had never seen an old ring in-game before, and I certainly had never seen a 2-star legendary old ring. The stats on this are +1 to strength and 50% less falling damage. During streams, viewers told me that the ring probably wasn't a legal item. While I do have quite a few hours into Fallout 76, I don't really follow it enough to know what is possible and what is not. Regardless, I figured most people probably hadn't seen a ring like this either due to what people were saying. I thought it'd be fun to show you guys, and I can't wait to read your comments on what you think about this legendary old ring. The Operation Anchorage DLC in Fallout 3 sees the Brotherhood outcast trying to access a secured bunker. Most players on repeat playthroughs hit this DLC first because of the Unbreakable Power Armor reward. But if you happen to show up in some outcast power armor, you will receive some unique dialogue for doing so. The outcasts are standoffish to outsiders, but they're pretty welcoming when they think you're a part of the group.
About damn time the reinforcements showed up. Fall in, soldier. We got multiple hostiles between here and the base camp. We're sweeping the area to secure it. Let's move. Nice work out there, soldier. Thanks for the backup. But where's the rest of your detachment? That'd be Protector McGraw. Sir, he's inside. Go ahead in.
Thank you for responding to our distress call. All right, follow me. I'll take you to Protector McGraw.
So you're the one Marill sent down. Except you're not one of us, are you? I'll have to have a little chat with Marill about that. But you do have that computer there on your wrist. I can see now that Marill made the right call. Maybe you can be useful after all.
In the game files for Fallout 3, there's a set of power armor that really stands out above the rest. This absolute beauty of a set of armor is commonly referred to as the Heartbreaker power armor. It is all pink, including the helmet, and it is emblazoned with a white heart on the chest. Interestingly, it also features the Brotherhood of Steel markings on the shoulders. I couldn't find what the original plan for this armor was. Still, the developers of Fallout 3 decided to cut this PA set before the final game was released. This has to be my favorite cut armor in the Fallout series. Throughout the Fallout series, we can find many television sets. Going back to the original Fallout, these TVs are radiation kings. This is a trend that continues to this day with Fallout 76. We can even visit locations related to these TV sets, like in Fallout 76 with the converted munitions factory, which used to act as a Radiation King assembly plant, and in Fallout 3, where we can visit one of the storefronts for the Radiation King brand televisions. While it may seem like a clever way to name a company in a post-nuclear apocalypse setting, it does go a tad deeper than that. The name Radiation King refers to the Simpsons TV with the same name that we see in a season 6 episode titled Grandpa vs. Sexual Inadequacy, where we see Homer getting hit with tons of rads while sitting in front of a TV as a child.
There she is, the old Radiation King. You'd park yourself right there and watch for hours on end.
While this is not the only reference to The Simpsons in the Fallout series, it is for sure the most significant. The Simpsons have a special place in my heart as I grew up watching the first 10 seasons and loving them. Still, with Fallout being my favorite game series, for me, this was a match made in heaven. In Fallout 2, you can come across a giant stone head in the wastes, along with a beautiful waterfall. This stone head represents the Vault Dweller from the original Fallout. Interacting with the stone head will prompt it to tell you to keep your damn hands off of it. After telling the head that you are the chosen one, an argument will ensue. That will last 12 hours. Ultimately, the head of the Vault Dweller will give up and accept that you are the chosen one, rewarding us with a monument chunk. The in-game description reads, "This is a piece of the disgruntled stone monument you found out in the desert. Although many of your village would no doubt regard it as a sacred relic, somehow you suspect that you have been cheated. Consuming this chunk will give a +3 boost to strength and agility with +50 damage resistance as icing on the cake, but this lasts only an hour. After that time has passed, it will actually debuff the chosen one, taking 3 points from strength and agility, but this will also only last an hour. If you feel brave and have a high steal skill above 95%, you can steal 3 more of these monument chunks from the head. It won't be pretty if you fail the skill check though, as the sacred head of the Vault Dweller deals impossible amounts of damage and will gib you instantly. This is an incredible special encounter to come across in your travels, as it adds some humor from the lore of the series and it's just as outrageous as it needs to be. Fallout 2 players have a permanent Wild Wasteland trait due to all the wacky stuff in this game, and I love it. In Fallout New Vegas, you are dug out of a shallow grave by Victor and treated by Doc Mitchell in Goodsprings. Doc will have you go through a few different tutorials as you build your character, but have you ever noticed the hidden one involving the Brahmin skull? Walking over to the fireplace and using the grab command, pushing in the right stick on consoles and the Z key on PC will issue the prompt for this cut part of the tutorial. This is a small detail that is easy to miss for both new and veteran players of New Vegas, as most would see you can't loot it and move on. In Fallout Tactics, you can get a special encounter that places you in a bazaar. The area looks great, as does most of Fallout Tactics. One of the biggest strengths of the game is the environmental art, in my opinion. One of the merchants here can sell the warrior a piece of armor called the Devil Thorn Jacket, though it will cost a pretty penny, bringing in a higher price than a suit of advanced power armor. This armor is a reference to the unique Demon Spike coat from Diablo. The stats reflect this as well, as both sets of armor have the exact same listing in each game's respected inventory. The Fallout Tactics Devil Thorn Jacket reads, Unique item, 100 AC, plus 10 strength, plus 50% resist fire, -6 damage from enemies, indestructible, minimum strength 75, it weighs 20 pounds. Yes, that's correct, you must have a strength stat of 75 to wear this armor, meaning the player can't equip it in Fallout Tactics, though one could wear it through cheats. Still, it would remove all agility points, making the player unable to move. This is an excellent way for the devs to show some love to one of the greatest games of all time, Diablo. Now if we could only get our hands on a Fallout version of the Executioner's Blade, we'd all be set. In Fallout 3, there are various radio stations you can listen to on the Pip-Boy, like the Enclave Radio or GNR. There was going to be another broadcast you could tune into, but it was cut from the final game. Tenpenny Tower Radio would play various jazz and blues tracks. We can find remnants of the chatter that was to appear in the dialogue files for Alistair Tenpenny. It shows us a bit more what it would sound like.
Thank you for listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio Service, brought to you by Alistair Tenpenny. This is Tenpenny Tower Radio. You're listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio, the sound of progress. This is Tenpenny Tower Radio, music and inspiring talk for forward-thinking people.
Tenpenny even had a segment referred to as Tenpenny Truisms, which featured various quotes and reflections from the Wasteland mogul.
The poor man wishes for prosperity. The rich man makes his own. We must turn our thoughts away from that which is imperfect and impure. On that vast plain of dust we will raise new cities, and like the phoenix, spread the wings of new life and take flight. Never wonder for a moment if you're worthy of the benefits you possess. Rather wonder always if you have utilized them to their fullest. All men were created equal. Not all men remain so.
In the original Fallout, the Brotherhood of Steel would send the Vault Dweller to the West Tech research facility on a quest to retrieve a holodisk. This location, also known as the Glow due to the high amount of residual radiation that lingers here, holds a great throwback to Doom, a game many consider to be the father of modern-day first-person shooters. On different floors of the facility, we can find key cards. These cards are different colors and match the elevators located throughout the Glow. The yellow card opens the yellow door, the red one opens the red door, and unsurprisingly, the blue one opens the blue door. The color of these cards and the doors that they open is a reference to Doom. In the game, you would need to find yellow, red, or blue cards to open matching doors on most levels. The setting of the Glow can be compared to Doom as well, as before turning on the power, it is a dark, cramped, cursed location with robots instead of demons. Vault Boy is the lovable mascot, for lack of a better term, of the Fallout series. Always the fan favorite, Vault Boy is featured in every Fallout game as a way to illustrate the different perks, skills, quests, and pretty much anything else that could be found in the Pip-Boy, as well as a pre-war icon for Vault Tech. This video is about the spicier side of the Blue Suit Wonder, as we will be looking at the more controversial appearances of Vault Boy and his Vault Girl counterpart. First, let's take a look at the Child Killer reputation title in the classic Fallout games. The player would get this title obviously after killing a child in combat. This depiction of Vault Boy running from a mob dressed as a dastardly villain was used in the skill decks, the same image used for the hated reputation. For Fallout 2, an updated image was considered that saw Vault Boy kicking a pregnant Vault Girl with the word baby written on her shirt. This image was ultimately cut from the game, and Brian Menz, the artist behind the picture, had this to say. This image was unused and the only Vault Boy image to ever be cut from Fallout 2. I'm sure you can figure out why. I remember when I got the request to do the perk illustration for Child Killer that there would be no way to keep it from being offensive. I mean, really, how do you make an illustration of Child Killer and keep it from being offensive? Anyway, for some reason I thought this was the least offensive way to do it. I have no idea what I was thinking. Even the designer who requested it realized it was a bad idea, so we fixed it. Looking back on it now, I can't believe I drew this. Another version of Vault Boy we would never see in today's Fallout landscape is the classic Fallout version of the Kim Reliant trait, which depicts Vault Boy tied off and hunched over, looking much like a heroin overdose scene. This seems to be the case, as the trait itself does not appear past Fallout Tactics. Vault Boy is no stranger to adult overtones either. Suppose the Chosen One has a great rating after a sexual encounter or just sleeps with a few people. In that case, they will be granted the Gigolo reputation title, which has one of my personal favorite versions of Vault Boy. If the Chosen One has 10 sexual encounters, it will unlock the Sexpert reputation title, which shows Vault Boy and Vault Girl in bed with some notches on the headboard. Kama Sutra Master shows a similar scene that reflects the perk's name, with Vault Boy and Vault Girl tied up in a precarious position. These are relatively tame, but you won't be seeing them in any of the new Fallout titles. Still, they only get more provocative from there. The Porn Star reputation title, unlocked in New Reno by acting in one of the Golden Globes films, shows Vault Boy getting some treatment from 3 Vault Girls in revealing underwear. Certainly not the Vault Boy we know these days. Finally, the lewdest of the Vault Boy artwork, the cut version of the Waste reputation title. The Chosen One would begin with this reputation and only lose it by sleeping with an NPC. While this was ultimately cut, this title can still be added through a save editor. In the Old World Blues DLC for Fallout New Vegas, we can explore Big Mountain. The location is one of the most advanced in the Fallout universe. It holds many surprises, secrets, and exciting characters in its midst. One of my Discord members pointed out that we can find a dead followers doctor on the sink roof. The overwhelming amount of technology and scientific experiments could be why we see this poor follower here. The followers are passionate about many forms of research, including human longevity, which could be what brought this cursed soul to their doom. You can actually get to this doctor and loot him by expertly jumping up the ramps by the entrance. On his corpse, you can find a doctor's coat, a super stim pack, and a few regular stim packs. Still, the most interesting thing about this person is wondering just what brought them here and how they met their end. My best guess is they were trying to find a way into the sink but got stopped fast by the advanced security measures. Or got shot by a lobotomite. A cruel fate. Shout out to the Wanderer for suggesting this one. A link to his YouTube channel is in the video's description. One of the things I like most in the classic Fallout games is how the artist transcribed signs, graffiti, and posters into the game world. With an almost tilt-shift look, the trimetric point of view allows for some very charming takes on small details like these. One poster, that appears in both games, stands out due to the subject of the photo. We can find this poster in places like Junktown in the original Fallout and Modoc in Fallout 2. While it looks a little creepy to the uninitiated, this is actually a photo of Maynard James Keenan, frontman of the band Tool. The The photo originally appeared in the booklet for the band's first album, Undertow, among other unsettling imagery. It's safe to say that the devs at Interplay and Black Isle were Tool fans and felt like it would be an excellent way to show their love by plastering this picture of Maynard all over their wasteland. So this begs the question, does this make Tool canon in the Fallout universe? In Fallout 3, when doing the Wasteland Survival Guide quest, if you're wearing the mechanist costume when you get to the robotics bit, you will actually get a bit of unique dialogue.
We're in the last stretch now, so let's finish it up strong. What's first? Oh, this is so exciting. I feel like I'm sending you out on some sort of super assignment. Okay, give me a moment to calm down. Now then, after some searching, I got this Robco processor widget. Supposedly, if you connect it to the mainframe at the Robco factory, you can get access to an army of robots. Seems like it's right up your alley, huh? And it'd be a great example of how to harness technology, wouldn't it?
In Fallout 4, there are several vaults that we can visit, most of which we can find the corresponding jumpsuits for in our travels. I myself enjoy collecting vault jumpsuits in Fallout 4 and storing them in their own case, never to be seen or worn again. 2 vaults in the Commonwealth area do not have jumpsuits that we can find, Vault 75 and Vault 95. While we can see these vaults in game, there is no way to obtain their jumpsuits in the world. These jumpsuits are still in the game though, and on PC we can use console commands to get them into our inventory. While rather unremarkable by themselves, it makes you wonder why these vault suits were cut from Fallout 4. The only other cut vault jumpsuit is from Vault 101. This, of course, is the vault that the Lone Wanderer left in Fallout 3, but it obviously does not appear in Fallout 4. I like to think that this Vault 101 jumpsuit was originally going to be an Easter egg that we could find in the Commonwealth, making an unmistakable reference to Fallout 3 with a slight nod to the main vault from the game. For whatever reason, the devs decided to cut these jumpsuits from the final game. We may never know what their original plans were. Still, I would love to hear what you guys think the original idea for the Vault 101 jumpsuit was going to be in Fallout 4 in the comments below. In Fallout 3, as you are leaving Vault 101, you will be ambushed by 2 guards. Bethesda added a great small detail with this encounter. These vault guards will pursue the Lone Wanderer all around the vault, but if we step outside the vault door at all, the dynamic duo will stop dead in their tracks. I like this attention to detail a lot. Though many people may know about this already, it still acts as a nice touch to players who flee the vault instead of fighting it out with the guards. While filming for videos in Fallout New Vegas, I came across a really interesting bug with Victor. After siding with the town in Ghost Town gunfight, I tried to recruit Victor and then talk to him after the fight, and this is what happened. Let me know down in the comments if this has happened to you. It's a pretty crazy bug, and I just want to know if anybody else has experienced it.
Howdy, partner. Might I say you're looking fit as a fiddle?
In Fallout New Vegas, we meet Victor, the lovable cowboy-themed Securitron that resides in Goodsprings. I want to talk about a couple of things that it seems some players miss due to the way the game is laid out. Victor digs the courier out of their shallow grave, and we wake up in Doc's bed. After leaving Doc Mitchell's house, he's the first NPC we come across, so naturally, he is usually the first person we talk to outside of the dock. During the first real quest that shows itself to us, Ghost Town Gunfight, we are tasked with mustering up as many townsfolk as possible for the upcoming raid from the Powder Gangers. Everyone involved with the quest is marked except for Victor himself. The first bit of unique dialogue happens here, where we can recruit Victor for the battle.
Trouble with rustlers, huh? Count me in, partner. Those varmints will be running home with their tails between their legs soon enough.
Victor will no-show the fight, so catching up with him after, we can use a science skill check to reveal that an override was issued remotely in his programming.
Howdy, partner. So when do the rustlers show up? Really? I must have dozed off. Although that's never happened before. All right, but put everything back the way you found it. Override? That can't be right. Probably just a malfunctioning tube somewhere. I truly am sorry I couldn't help you, partner. Was there something else you wanted to talk about?
Now, the other bit of Victor's unique dialogue comes from not speaking to him until you hit New Vegas, where he will give you a fabulous introduction.
Howdy, partner. You come for a piece, haven't you? Welcome to New Vegas. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the Securitron that dug you up in the bone orchard outside Goodsprings. I thought you'd gone up the flume, but that Doc Mitchell knows his trade. It's good to see you up and around, right as a trivet. Consider me your personal welcome wagon. Now hear this. The head honcho of New Vegas, Mr. House, is itching to make your acquaintance. Just head for the Lucky 38. It's the big old tower shaped like a roulette spinner. Yeah, partner. That's the spirit. He'll be waiting for you.
I love the attention to things like this in New Vegas. It's quite the reward for players that don't really follow the beaten path. In Fallout 4, we can come across the Museum of Witchcraft. This spooky location houses a deathclaw and mannequins galore. But looking deeper than that, we can see a small hole in the ceiling on the main floor. Usually, getting up into this space would be impossible. Still, if you have power armor equipped with a jetpack, you can reach this secret area. You can find a couple of random loot stashes, some mentats, and a revolutionary sword that is protruding from the chest of a skeleton. No doubt implying some type of weird ritual went down here at the museum. Fallout 4 is filled with hidden areas like this, some far more rewarding than this. It's just a cool little secret that most players miss. Most everyone who has played Fallout New Vegas is undoubtedly familiar with Yes Man, the agreeable AI that Benny planned to take over the strip with. In-game, we see a smiling face on the monitor to represent this fan favorite, but there were more faces planned for Yes Man, and they don't seem nearly as cheery as his final form. These two faces can be found in the New Vegas game files, showing Yes Man with different expressions. I guess these would be used when saying something that Yes Man doesn't like, or attacking the Securitron he embodies. Perhaps showing on the Lucky 38 monitor if the courier was to somehow betray the AI. These were likely left out due to Yes Man's personality. He is supposed to always agree and be happy with whatever choice you make, and these expressions contrast to that. Only the devs of New Vegas genuinely know what these were going to be used for, but I would love to hear what your ideas are in the comments below. Fallout 4 is no stranger to cool Easter eggs and secrets. Bethesda even took the time to include a nod to a series the developers are likely pretty fond of. On the outskirts of Bradburton, in the Nuka-World DLC, we can find an unlit bonfire with a sword sticking out of it. This, of course, is a reference to the bonfires of the Dark Souls series, complete with Sun Shrine. Kindling the fire will net you a handful of stim packs and ignite the fire. This is a great shout out to a beloved series, and these types of Easter eggs always bring a smile to my face.
Get fucked.
Yes, guess who's on third? Lupe still like looping the third. Here like ear till I'm bitter on the curb. Peach fuzz buzz, but bitter on the verge. Let's slow it down like we're on the serve. Bottle shaped body like Mrs. Butterworth. But before you say another word, I'm back on the block like I'm laying on the street. I'm trying to stop lying like I'm Mum Rob, but I'm not lying when I'm laying on the beat.